Thank you, Rusty. With our invocation will be Kay Shaw.
Let's join together in prayer, please. As we gather today as members of Rotary, we pray that we're ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our Midlands community. We pray for strength and guidance for each day as it comes, for each day's duties, for each day's problems. May we be challenged to use our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which generations can build with confidence. Father, we ask you to bless our fellowship today and bless this food to the nourishment of our bodies in your service. Amen.
Thank you, Kay. With visiting Rotarians and guests, we've got new member Richard Pollard, not as new anymore. Richard?
Happy Monday, everybody. I do not believe we have any visiting Rotarians. Do we have one?
We have a guest.
Yes. All right. Is there any visiting Rotarians? Don't believe there are. All right. Anybody that has any guests, please stand up and introduce your guests. Can anybody come grab this? You got a microphone? Okay, wonderful.
Good afternoon. I'm Kim Mitchell with Castle Brothers Heating and Cooling, and I'm honored to have our Operations Manager and Vice President of Vision Air, Cordell Brown, with me today.
I'm Andy Shane. I'm the Managing Editor in Columbia here for the Post and Courier, and I have here my wife, Christy, who is also the Public Information Officer for the Department of Corrections. So please, I always want to sit here and say, please feel sorry for her for being married to me.
Good afternoon, I'm David Reneker with First Reliance Bank, and I'm pleased to have David Tucker with me here. David's with Tucker Oil, we're glad to have him.
I think that's it, visiting guests. And, appreciate you being here. Thank you. Hey, David, good to see you. Next on the agenda is Health and Happiness with Wayne Cannon.
You know, Rusty does a great job playing the piano for us every week, and Aubrey's not here, but we ought to give him a big round of applause for all the things he's done. Over the years, I've asked for more volunteers, but nobody volunteered to do that but him. So we should be really thankful for that. We have a few little information about some of the members. Debbie had a shoulder surgery, and she's doing quite well and getting over that. Last Friday she had that. Don't forget the Alzheimer's budget. We're running a little bit behind. We normally do contribute about $6,000 a year, but due to the COVID and membership attendance, as well as the fact that we didn't meet for a few weeks there, we are running a bit behind. But you know, when you talk about Alzheimer's, my mother-in-law in her later stages of life had Alzheimer's, and my wife, this is you know, some of the stories you hear bad, but this was a good one. She couldn't remember her phone number, so she bought her one of those phones that had, where you mash one button and it dials it. And so she was instructing her about how to use this phone, and she says, you know, you just hit this button here, and it'll get me if you do that. And she says, okay, let's practice now. And so she says, pick up the phone. And my mother-in-law picks up the whole phone, holds it over her head. And she says, no, just the receiver. She says, well, you said pick up the phone. And so you get some funny responses from that. And Charles Duvall, who is not a member of this club, but was an Episcopal bishop, died this past week. He was a frequent member, not a frequent visitor for the club, and had some people who were in the club, and anyway, he passed away, for those who knew him. Also, remember October 19th, we got the Purple Finger. That's with Wear Purple. I don't got anything purple that I know of. have to buy it for my wife, I reckon. Anybody, y'all wear purple shirts? Huh? Well, women do. Okay, anyway, I got purple for that. Anybody know what that's all about? Polio, that's right. October the 24th is World Polio Day. And of course, we as Rotarians are real active in that. Glenn Matthews' wife, who had a go-kart accident, Melanie, is recovering from that real nicely now, and she's doing much better. She did have quite a issue with that. She hit her head, and that's never good. So anyway, she's recovering quite nicely. So if you see Glenn, he was here just a second ago, tell him. Real quick, for those I know should be disappointed, y'all bear with me now. I gave a Rotary Health and Happiness a few weeks ago. And at that time I made an announcement about the magazine. So everybody that was not here for that meeting, I want you to stand up. Come on, people. Milmore, stand up. I know you weren't here. I know the rest of you. Anybody wasn't here for that meeting? No, stay standing, stay standing. I tell you to sit. You can't stand up, Dottie. All right. That's all it was. All right. If anybody can tell me what the change of the magazine was, I'll give you a present.
You told me.
I told you, but that don't count. Sit down. Anybody else know?
He knows.
What was it? All right. The Rotarian was called the Rotarian magazine for how long? Anybody know the answer to that? No. 114 years this magazine was called the Rotarian. 2 months ago they changed it to Rotary. And there ain't nobody in this club noticed except me. And that's because I read it. And I don't think, it says 85% of the people, one of the things I read, 85% of Rotarians actually read this magazine. I said, well, 15% are in our club. So, you really need to read it, it's great. There's an article in the last one that just came out, we got it last week, it's October's. It gives a long history of the relationship of Rotary and the United Nations. Now I know the United Nations is controversial, but they do a lot of good things for the health care of the world. And that's the part that the Rotary Club is involved in, is the health of the world. And so read that, it'll take you about 5 minutes to read it. It might take you, well, some of it might take 10. But anyway, read that part about the involvement of Rotary International in the World Health Organization and how Rotary has helped health throughout the world for the past. We became involved in 1920, but this is the 75th anniversary of the United Nations, and the Rotary Club is very active in the health care of that. If you read the magazine, you didn't know that. Real quick, I got 2 quick points of history that I found. I always knew that Benjamin Tillman, who was governor of South Carolina, had the nickname Pitchfork Ben Tillman. And he was a governor from 1890 to 94. And he was also our U.S. Senator from 1895 to 1918. And he got the name, and I never knew why until I read this. He said when he was running for the Senate, he said if he won, he would take a pitchfork and stick it in Governor Grover Cleveland's ribs. And so that's how he got the name. I knew it was Pitchfork Ben, but I never knew why. That didn't work much, but it's funny. All right, I got some other history things, but I'll save those for next time, which might be sooner than you want.
educational. Also, in a recent magazine, y'all may have noticed our own member, William Starrett, was on the front cover. His image was of the Columbia Metropolitan Magazine, and that was quite fascinating. So if you've got that magazine, do look at it and look in detail, and then look at it specifically at all the little details and how it encompasses his lifetime. It's pretty fascinating. It's a great article too. All right, next, I do want everybody to recognize the blue buckets. Please put some money in there. As Wayne mentioned earlier, we are behind on that, and you can make a tax deductible contribution to the CART fund. Next on the agenda is Andy Shane. He's coming up to chat.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon at this point. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. As you may or may not know, I am heading up the Salvation Army kettle campaign this season for the Rotary. I'm doing it a bit, we're reversing roles with Chase in my office. So again, I guess we're teaming up to help run that. So I just wanted to give a little bit of a very quick update because it's October and usually this is about the time when we start putting things together for it. A couple of very quick announcements. Number one, locations haven't been set up quite yet. I'm being told it'll be a couple more weeks until we kind of solidify that. But the word is that first of all, both greens, the old one on Assembly and the new one on Garner's Ferry, are very much in play. So my understanding is that that'll be the main locations that we'll be doing our bell ringing at this season. And what I wanted to find out also is to get folks to help be day captains for those days that we do. Obviously we need people to help shepherd to get people together for those days. So we fill our shifts. And a couple of suggestions I always have about filling those shifts is that if you can, obviously the companies that you work at or the businesses you own, to maybe put together a team of people from your companies or from your businesses and do that. And also a reminder to all of your, if you have students in your home who need to get service hours for either for church or for school, that it's also a good opportunity to maybe set something up for that. So of course, if you want to put a teenager in front of a liquor store ringing a bell, it's not a bad idea, probably some good lessons to be learned there, but in all seriousness, obviously looking to try to get those shifts filled, especially of course during this time when obviously some people don't want to be out as much. So I'll have some more information as we obviously I get more from the Salvation Army about things and obviously get the sign up ready to go when I do know more. But in the meantime, please tell me if you can see me after maybe the meeting, if you want to be a day captain, and if not, Cynthia's going to put something on the up on the newsletter she sends out, and it'll have my email address. So please send me a note that you'd be interested in doing that. I could use the help. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy. We'll be keeping all that in mind, having day captains, but our guest speaker is not allowed to bring people who need community service hours to come in, so we know that to be a fact. Okay, next on the agenda is Cynthia Giles. Cynthia?
Purple is not my color. But it's going to be everybody's color next Monday, right? Yes. So, as we were already informed, World Polio Day is Saturday, October 24th, and we are going to participate in a district-wide challenge next Monday. And what that is, and I've tried to make it super simple for us all, is you guys show up dressed up in as much purple as you can, and I will take pictures and video, and we will post it, and hopefully we win the award. All we're trying to do is get awareness because there's 2 countries left in the entire world that we need to eradicate it in, and it's a political endeavor right now. So we need your support. Share it. Show up next Monday in purple. Share everything that you can on your social media about polio awareness and try to get donations, but more than anything, try to get people engaged and to know that polio is still there. If you ask most people my age in this country, they will tell you it's already eradicated, which is a problem. So let's go ahead and focus on it, and I will be in this beautiful wig next week. So please join me.
Thank you, Cynthia. We look forward to seeing you again in that wig next week. I will be wearing a purple tie of some type. I encourage all of you all, as she said, bring purple next Monday. We will be videotaping. We will also be doing, on top of the national anthem, in addition to the national anthem next week, we'll be reciting the four-way test, because she'll be videotaping us all in purple doing that. And as a practice for that, we're going to do that at the end of this meeting. Instead of singing, because Rusty had to leave and Audrey's not here, we're going to recite the four-way test. I know I'm blocking all of it for most of you, but we will have to bone up on the four-way test this afternoon and then again next Monday, just so you all know. Do wear your masks, as we do have an ordinance here. We want everybody to be comfortable. When you're finished eating and drinking, put your mask on. I see lots of you here with your Rotary mask. That's fantastic. As a reminder, Keith Hudson and Jim Hudson Automotive did provide some seed money for those masks. We want to appreciate them for doing that. They are available out front, every meeting, and they're also available to get, if you talk to Brad, they'll mail one to you, or 5, however many you'd like, for $10 contributions to the Rotary Club. And that's all going to help us pay for our food packing event, which is going to be here on Saturday, December 5th. It's going to be at 9 o'clock. You can bring family members to attend and help with the food packing event as well. They do need to be over the age of 18 for the food packing event. So please plan to be here, bring friends, and it will be on Saturday, December 5th at 9 o'clock. But do get as many masks as you can between now and then. Membership, as we've talked about, is always essential. We have some prospective members here today. We have another Discover Rotary meeting on Monday, November 2nd. That will be here at 11:30. Please bring prospective members to come and learn more about Rotary and why it's important to join and everything that there is when they do join. You all have all received your fourth quarter invoices. Please pay them as soon as possible. Next Monday, after the 19th, on Monday the 19th, after that meeting, we're going to have a board meeting, and we'll be talking about invoices and those folks who have their still due to be paid. So try to get those paid at least by next Monday. But that is an announcement I don't think the board knows. So the board that's here today, we have a board meeting next Monday the 19th, immediately following this meeting. We're also going to invite all past presidents to attend that meeting. So there's a little bit of a co-meeting going on with past presidents and the current board. That'll be next Monday the 19th after this meeting. Right now we do have a couple of minutes, so we're going to take a couple of minutes, 2 minutes each, or 2 minutes now for 30 seconds each to introduce yourselves to your table mates. 30 seconds, go.
Wear that suit. Like the stretcher. Yeah. The one that your mom got. Oh, yeah. Oh, the golfer. I'm getting the eyes. By the way, so are you married? I don't know. All right, very Sorry, I just took one. I should have. If you want serious business, come throw marketing in for you. Not talking about it. So, our meeting means so he said, I can call my phone, can I? Okay. I need to do that.
All right, hope y'all know each other a little bit better now. Next is our main speaker, and to introduce our speaker today is Billy Canty.
Morning, or afternoon, everybody. I have the pleasure today of introducing our speaker, Bryan Stirling. Bryan and I met in, I guess, 1993 in law school, so I've known him for quite a while. And just probably so I don't embarrass either one of us, I'm going to go by his bio instead of starting back then. Bryan Stirling is the director of the South Carolina Department of Corrections. He was confirmed as a director by the South Carolina Senate in February 19, 2014. He has a staff of 5,000. Sterling is also responsible for roughly 17,500 inmates, currently serving time in one of the 21 penal institutes across the state. Upon assuming office, when Sterling got in, the agency had undergone officer shortages and media scrutiny, and under his leadership, the agency has closed 6 institutions. The inmate population has declined due to a reduction in the recidivism rates, sentencing reform, successful programs, and services within the institution. Bryan's also settled a decade-old mental health lawsuit that plagued the agency and its leadership. In 2016, he received the Stephen G. Morris and Nelson Mullins Social Justice Award from the Columbia Urban League and the William D. Leake Award of Excellence. Prior to joining the correctional systems, Bryan served as a director, attorney general for nearly 6 years, and most recently served as Nikki Haley's chief of staff from 2012 to 2013, during which he oversaw management of the governor's cabinet and Office of Executive Policies and Programs. Bryan graduated from the University of South Carolina in 1991, and then graduated from the University of Law School in 1996. On a personal note, Bryan is married and has twins, a boy and a girl. So I let's give a warm and Rotary welcome to Bryan Stirling.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Andy, thank you for inviting me. Mason and Billy, I've known y'all for a long time. Thank you for the abbreviated bio. I appreciate that. And Andy said that sometimes he has to apologize, or his wife has to apologize, saying I'm married to Amy Shane. I think her hardest job is actually being the communications director of the Department of Corrections, because with social media and inmate cell phones, it just doesn't stop. It is constant on social media and with the media. And when Andy asked me to speak, I said, what do you want me to speak about? And he said about 20 minutes. So I'll speak for about 20 minutes. Anyways, I'm going to talk about reentry, jobs, inside the facility, cell phones, COVID, and some other things. Department of Corrections, actually, we've closed 7 institutions. A lot of people don't know, but the President's First Step Act was based on what we did in South Carolina in 2010 with sentencing reform. And we've dropped the population. When I took over, it was about 22,000 folks who were incarcerated. Now we're barely over 16,000 and we'll be under 16,000 shortly. And why is that? One of my things I put on Twitter, attacked every time I put something on Twitter pretty viciously by some folks. But anyways, 85-5 and you, what does that mean? Well, 85% of the folks that come to the Department of Corrections are out in under 5 years and they're back out amongst you. So don't we want them better than when we came in? And I think everybody in South Carolina can agree that we do. You can save a lot of tax dollars, you can make the community safer, but you can actually change a family, a generation, or generations of folks. So a little secret that, no offense to our friends in the media, Andy, but they don't want to report good news with Department of Corrections, is that we have the lowest recidivism rate in the country. What is the recidivism rate? It's coming back to prison within 30 years. We're actually tied with Virginia. Why is that? Well, when I took over, I don't know if y'all remember the old bus stop there on Hardin Street. I went down one morning about 3 o'clock to see what we were doing because I like to see things. It drives my staff crazy, especially with over 5,000 employees. But I like to see what we're doing. So I showed up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I was appalled at what I saw. We were letting men and women out. They were still in their prison uniforms, but we just took the stripe off. So technically, they weren't in prison uniforms anymore. Prostitutes and drug dealers were there. They were not really given a chance. I mean, they were like immediately victims, and you'd say, okay, you're leaving prison, do you have any money? Well, no, but you know, if you throw this dope for me or sling this dope for me tomorrow, I'll give you this stuff today. Prostitutes were doing the same thing. So I called Sheriff Lott, and I got Sheriff Lott folks there. One thing that concerned me was the number of students coming down from Allen and Benedict. It was Halloween, so I was a little surprised going through 5 Points. It's been a long time since I've been 5 Points for anything kind of social late at night, and I was just shocked at the number of students. And then we had these folks that just left prison, so literally, if you can picture Hardin Gervais, there's a streaming group of young ladies walking back to Benedict and Allen, and then all these people that just left prison. I mean, that was a cocktail for a disaster. So one of the things that we did and saved some money was we said, if you get picked up by your family members trying again to get them connected with family members, you can leave the day that you're allowed to leave. If you can't, you got to take the bus and you got to wait a couple days, and we're not going to let you go to this bus stop that was there. It's no longer there on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because that was a large portion of people coming back and forth. Guess what? Everybody took the bus. I mean, everybody got picked up by family members, and that started the process. One of the things that I went back and said, hey, we've got to have a better reentry process. What we want to do is we want to have these folks learn these skills and be able to, the whole teaching someone to fish thing, and get that GED, get that high school diploma, get that welding certificate, get that truck driving certificate. So I went to then Governor Haley at the time, and I said, hey, what I'd like to do is ask for this money for reentry efforts. So we started this reentry program, Man Correctional, which is here in Columbia, and it's a couple-month program, 6-month program where they go through and they learn these skills. It's simple things like explaining incarceration, because we all know, especially Castle Brothers, I'm sure y'all do background checks. I hope you do, because you service my house. So she's shaking her head yes, because that would be awkward. Anyways, how do you explain incarceration? You want to sit down with the person and you want to bring it up yourself. You want to proactively say, you know what, I made some bad decisions. I don't like to call them mistakes. I think a mistake is when you didn't mean to do something and something happens. Folks that end up in prison, they make choices. They make choices to commit crimes. But they can also make a choice that gives them control to make a choice to better their lives, to turn their lives around. So one of the things we teach them is, hey, say, I went to prison, but here's what I did. I got involved in this program. I was in a character institution. Or I became an inmate worker, or I got my GED, or I did this, that, and the other. Anger management, spousal abuse, all this other stuff. I went through all these classes, and we put that on our website. So you can check to see what I did. And we'll tell folks that are with employers in the room, if you're looking to hire and you're desperate to hire, please hire someone who's leaving prison. You can not only change that person's life, you can change their children's life, you can change their family's life. And there's money out there to do it. There's training credits, there's bonding and things of that nature. We notice, and what we do is we follow what's going on in the state with the ports. So, super tankers, I'm sure everybody's familiar with the race that we're having with other ports across the East Coast. The super tankers coming across. Well, guess what a big need is, and anybody that's driven from Charleston to Columbia anytime soon knows this. Trucking, warehousing, asphalt, roads. So we teach warehousing. We've bought simulators to teach people how to drive trucks. We have asphalt machines that we use on, to teach how to do asphalt. The one problem, the one thing that we need our legislators to do is change the liability statute. Because if you hire someone who has a criminal background and they're a truck driver, guess what's going to come in court? I know Glenn, you probably know this, but that history, regardless of what it is, it could not be a driving offense, it could be another offense, but it's going to come into court and the jury's going to hear that. So a lot of insurance companies, I don't blame them, are not going to hire someone because of that. I don't think that should be the fact. I don't think that should be the case. I think if it had to do with driving, it should come in depending on what the judge rules on the rules of evidence. But if it didn't, should that really come in? And should we really be penalizing people who made that choice before and stopping them from getting a job? One of the other things I noticed when I came in was our hiring. We hadn't had a raise in 10 years, back in 2013. And when Governor Haley, she brought me in her office, I was her chief of staff, sat me down and said, I want you to take over the Department of Corrections. And I immediately asked her what I did to make her mad. But she said, they have a lot of problems with security staffing. We've had some institutions, some level 3 or maximum security prisons, that have had, with 1,000 folks incarcerated there, 10 people show up to work for a shift. And somebody remarked recently that my hair has gotten grayer. Well, that'd be a pretty good reason for that, because we know we're operating in a very dangerous environment. We're paying overtime now. We have increased the salaries almost, they were about $26,000, $27,000. Now the average, I think, is about $34,000. That doesn't include overtime. With overtime, they're well into their $40,000, which, if you live in Lee County and there's not a lot of jobs and you don't want to commute to Columbia, you don't want to commute to Florence or somewhere like that, you can make a good living for your family on that amount of money. We're trying to do spot bonuses to bring people in. We're trying to develop leadership and things of that nature. But we were in a pretty big hole. We're still in a pretty big hole, but with our numbers coming down, it is helping, but we're not where we need to be. The other thing I'd say that we're doing is we're overclassifying people. So, for example, Bernie Madoff, he goes to federal prison. He's basically at a work camp up in North Carolina. If he came to the South Carolina Department of Corrections, he'd be at a level 3 prison because of the amount of time that he's doing, which is a maximum security prison, which doesn't make any sense. Because you have someone like that, and then you have someone that's a career criminal who's a gang member and this, that, and the other, and they may be roommates. That's just a very dangerous cocktail. One funny thing I'll tell you about Bernie Madoff, and you can Google it because I've done that. He cornered the market on hot chocolate at the prison and then sold it for double the amount. Madoff did that.
You said Maybank.
No, Maybank. Sorry, I'm projecting, Bernie. I apologize. Maybe if you had you for an attorney, he wouldn't be in federal prison right now. Anyways, he doubled that number. So the other thing is, and I don't have my phone. My phone's over there, but everybody's heard me talk about phones and how dangerous they are. Phones are, and I talk with he's a current sheriff, he used to be in state law enforcement, but they are the most dangerous thing that an inmate can have. I can't tell you the number of times and the number of problems that have happened because of phones. A month or two ago, Sheriff Lawton had a press conference. There were some drive-by shootings in Columbia. It was orchestrated by someone that was at the Department of Corrections. There's our Officer Johnson, who is a contraband lieutenant or captain over at Lee Correctional. There was a hit put out on him. They went to his house in Sumter. He's an Air Force veteran, and it was so sophisticated. Anybody that knows guns knows that 38s, they don't have shell casings come out, that they used a 38, so there'd be no shell casings. That was orchestrated because he was doing such a good job of keeping the phones and other contraband out of the Department of Corrections. We've got drones that are coordinated, bringing drugs and other things in. We've got officers who are compromised because of, I can't tell you the number of investigations we have that are directly related to cell phones. I want these folks to talk to their family members, I want them to communicate, but I want to know what they're saying for safety. So we did tablets where they can talk a little bit more to their family members, and they can have them their cells so they can have some privacy, but we still hear what's going on. We've tried and tried. Senator Graham has introduced a bill in D.C. with other senators to allow us to block that signal. We've got a system at Lee that works some of the time and it does not. I know jamming works 100% of the time. I got a call today from someone that I used to work with who said that her aunt was assaulted years ago, kidnapped and raped and assaulted, and that person that did that has written her a letter because he found her information on the internet and a legal cell phone, and he's called her several times. It's just very, very dangerous. I want them to communicate, but those cell phones need to be jammed. And the FCC and the cell phone industry has said that they want to come to the table, they want to help, and I'm all for that. But I just think jamming works. If there's something else that works, let us know. We can do it, but it's just very dangerous. COVID. So that's been a big topic that everybody's seen. That's why we're all wearing the masks. I was very concerned when COVID first came out because I knew there was no way for us to distance in the institutions. There's just no way. We have communal living in some of our institutions like Tiger River. We got hit early this year pretty hard. One of the things that's the problem with Tiger River is back 20, 30 years ago, they built the prison, but they decided to save money by not putting in toilets. in the cell. So they all have to go to the communal cell, which at night, we lock them down at night, we put them behind lock and key and turn the key. Problem is when they have to go to the bathroom, you gotta kind of let them out and go, and they had a lot of, I would say a lot of interaction, so it stopped. Or it spread at Tiger River. Now we have Broad River where there's a problem, which is right here in Columbia. We got 2,272 folks who we know of have tested positive for COVID, and currently 462 still have it. We've had 31 deaths. Most of the deaths are like the nursing homes. They're older folks with comorbidities. One of the problems we had at Broad River is when it got in there, that's where we had, because we could deliver a lot of medical services at Broad River, we had a lot of cancer patients and diabetics and things of that nature, so it really hit that institution hard. We've had almost 500 officers test positive. We test the folks that are incarcerated, the officers, they have to get tested themselves. We've had currently 52 that we know of, and 2 of them have passed. We don't know if they got COVID at the institution or not. Some of them, one of them we don't think so, the other one we're not sure. But it is very dangerous and very damaging to the institutions. It's taken a lot because we've got to take people out to the hospital. When we take people out to the hospital, we have to take people from the institution and bring them to the hospital so that we make sure that we have enough officers there to keep the public safe. We give them masks. We test. One of the issues and one of the good things we're having now is everybody's seeing is the quicker we can test and the quicker we can get the results back, the better we are to able to separate folks. Early on, it was taking 2 weeks. So we'd have inmate X who would get tested for it. We would know for 2 weeks, and we try to isolate that inmate, but there's only so much we can do inside the institution. Staff is giving masks. They are also given a test on the way in. I take a test. Have you been around anybody? Have you gone to a hot spot? This, that, and the other. We're putting ionizers in. One of the things that we saw at Kirkland Correctional here in Columbia was we stopped jumping from cell to cell. So the theory that I had was, for example, say in the dorm there'd be cell number 1 would get it, and then just say cell number 14 would get it. And we're like, these people didn't come anywhere close to each other. Yes, they were served food, but they didn't come anywhere close to each other. And I started reading about what was going on in New York with the restaurants and things of that nature. So if you're by a return, it would travel through the return and throw it basically over everybody. So I talked to Mr. Best here in Columbia. He does some work with Boeing. He does, I'm sure you all know him. He does I think the grills. And I asked him about it and his wife. And he convinced me that one thing that it was doing was moving around the air conditioning systems. He also convinced me that we could not put filters up because air conditioning systems are very, very old. Very old, so they break all the time. So if we put a filter up, it would put the air through, but then it would probably hurt the system and kill the system, and we'd have to be repairing systems left and right. So basically what these ionizers do, and I joked about this before USC won the Vanderbilt game, but they do what USC's defense can't do, which is tackle. Tackle the virus. So basically they tackle the virus and they put it to the ground. And we'll be installing those by December. We're going to use canteen funds for that, but we're hoping to get CARES Act money to pay for that because it's about $1 million. Some of our partnerships, MUSC has been amazing. They've helped us with testing. They've helped us with our staff testing. They've helped us with inmate testing. National Guard has come in and they've done the twice-a-day checks, and the checks of temperature, the checks of oxygen level, and things of that nature. Because we just don't have the medical staff, and we're hurting for nurses. I think everybody is, but we are severely hurting for nurses because we're not competitive in our pay. Asked the General Assembly for money for that, about $12 million to be competitive. I think Lexington Hospital pays about $65,000. I think we're at $40,000. So you can go work at Lexington Hospital for $65,000, or you can go work at the Department of Corrections for $40,000. And I understand that, so we're losing people. One thing I didn't mention with our returning citizens, we have now at medium security and maximum security, they go through programs. We're copying a program that we started about a year ago from Ohio where folks are leaving maximum security, and that means they've been in prison for a very long time. They're not supposed to know how to use a cell phone and things of that nature. They probably do because of what I've talked about, but they go through a 2-year program also. So we're trying to do as much testing as we can. We've got an application for employees, so if they've been close to someone that has been touched by this virus, they will know that they scan in and you can come in or you can't come in. So we're literally doing everything we can to try to help. If you want to help, one of the things you can do is soap, hand sanitizer, and things of that nature. That would be tremendous to help the institutions. We try to get those out. I think we do a good job with that. The biggest thing you can do to help, though, is if you want to volunteer, once this is over, we're not letting volunteers in, we're not letting families in. If you want to volunteer inside the institution, if you have a skill, please come in. If you know, just simple math, reading, writing, things of that nature are tremendous for these folks. Hiring, if you have a company, and we train on every single thing that you can think of out there, please consider hiring someone that is leaving prison. You can get bonded, you can get tax credits for it, but these folks are desperate to work. They're desperate to do the job. I can't tell you the number of times I'll get a call from someone, and we've got major corporations in South Carolina that have started hiring our folks because they were so desperate for workers. I can't tell you the number of times I've got a call from someone saying, you know what, that person that we hired that left prison a couple months ago, they're our best worker, and we want more. Because they're just desperate, and we do the training for you. So if you have something that's a need, and you can't find anybody to do it, please let us know, and we'll start a training program, just like we've done with the trucking industry, just like we've done with welding, just like we've done with warehousing, just like we've done with the people that are building the roads. You know, we obviously know that there are some jobs that people, for various reasons, can't hire, and we understand that, but if there are jobs out there that you can hire for, please let us know. And it's clearly working, because people are not coming back to prison. One of the last things I want to talk about is Twitter and the public perception. If you follow me on Twitter, Christy wrote this down for me, but you can see my fan club. Just over the last couple of weeks, I've been called Hitler, and said I run Nazi death camps. And, pretty offensive. It's very offensive. And we're doing everything we can with everything we have available, and we're trying to figure out how to stop COVID, how to stop some of the violence, things of that nature. And as I would say, and I've said before publicly, and I've told your paper this, Andy, we don't always get it right. But when we don't, we'll apologize, but we're trying everything. If you're going to be a critic, that's fine, be a critic. But don't just come with criticism. Please come with suggestions. Please come and say, hey, have you thought of this? Or why don't you do this? We've done it in the mental health case that I was nominated by Governor Haley, and I took over October 1st, 2013, and we got a mental health lawsuit, or settlement, or not settlement, but a lawsuit, and the judgment was that January, which was saying we were treating people unconstitutionally. And I asked my staff, they came in and said, we can fight this, we can fight this. And one thing I learned working with Governor McMaster in the Attorney General's office was that if there is a solution, you come up with a solution, you should always sit down with someone and try to figure it out. So we sat down and we came up with a settlement. We're not there yet, but we're trying to get there. Hepatitis C, that was spreading throughout the prisons and it was going outside. So one of the things we did was we sat down, we mediated that case, and we got money from the General Assembly to treat hepatitis C inside our facilities. It's always good to reach out and try to settle a case if you can, if it's the right thing to do. If it's not and you want to fight it, then go ahead and fight it. I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all might have. I know John Monk's not here, so I'm not going to get that John Monk question that he always asks people. Yes, sir?
Hired ex-inmates before, if you go into a military base or government facility, they won't let them in.
Right. So I understand that. So there were some jobs, like I said, that he's hired ex-inmates before, which I appreciate, but if they don't, if you have contracts with the federal government or things of that nature, they won't let you in. So what we'd ask is if you do have a need where those limitations aren't there, that you would look at doing that or find other things where they don't have to do that. And that's what we'd ask. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for your time here today. One of the concerns I've noticed when all of the news stories started coming in with COVID was that there was a lot of inmates being left unsupervised for long periods of time. It's a news article, so my concern with that is if there's an issue with job force, and then, you know, COVID happened and there's even less people, what do you need from the state or from the federal government to help fill those gaps so we don't have large amounts of people unsupervised or large groups of inmates supervised by one person? Because that's not
So we
safe.
definitely have large amounts of inmates supervised by one person. I can tell you that they're not unsupervised. We find a way with overtime and things of that nature. That would just be like a Lord of the Flies situation. It would just be not good. One of the things we did recently was we hired a private security firm to come and start working for us. And they're going to be doing duties that our folks can then be pushed inside. They can be when we send someone to a outside facility, we'll have a contact and non-contact officer. Contact officer will not have a weapon, for obvious reasons. The non-contact would, for security reasons. So we're hiring them to help us with outside. We're hiring them to do rover, front gate, and things of that nature. So we started that a couple of months ago. One thing that you should know is whenever we try to do anything, and I know Bernie knows this, we have to get permission. For us to spend money, there's a process. And we have to get permission from Joint Bond Review and the old Budget Control Board and things of that nature. So if we do a contract, it has to go through state procurement, and I know Hal knows this too, and anybody else that does procurement stuff. It's not like we can turn on a dime and spend the money. So some of this takes a little bit longer than I'd like, and I'm not very patient with some of this stuff. So we do sometimes have one officer in a dorm with 200 or 300 inmates, which, you know, if you're that officer and you see something doing something wrong, what are you going to do? You know, ultimately, we'd like 2, 3, or 4 people. In some of the northern states, where they're unionized and their officers make $1 million, $1,000 or $100,000 a year, they do have all that. But we just, you know, we don't have that, so we're trying to supplement with overtime. The overtime numbers, I don't have the specific amount, but what we paid, if you divide it by the number of officers, it is up higher than the numbers show. So I share your concern.
I have a question from the Facebook Live, which has never happened before. Do you ever ask that?
Sure, yeah.
There's a person named Trish Strange from Rotary in Tennessee asking, she has a nonprofit who mentors kids in the inner city. Ex-prisoners would be great counselors with troubled kids. Does the prison offer courses on how to be a counselor?
So yes, we actually have, I hired a former gang leader out of, thanks Trish for the question. I hired a former gang leader out of Massachusetts, and they've got a program at Lee where they bring a bunch of gang members together, and they not only do it inside, but they do it on the outside. So they go around to schools and talk about decisions that they've made. And this one guy, I don't know how he got his sentence shortened, but he literally has turned his life around. He was the head gang leader of the Massachusetts Department of Corrections. He's turned his life around, and he's working with other gang members to make sure that they don't do that. But she can call probably Tony Parker, who's a director and a friend of mine up in Tennessee, and he's a great director. He's actually president of the American Correctional Association. And I'm sure someone in his office would be more than happy to connect her with someone in Tennessee to turn that around.
Perfect, thank you.
One more? Yes, yeah.
Bryan, I'm assuming the telephone issue is not unique to South Carolina.
It's not. Charles Manson had a telephone. And that should scare everybody.
Yeah.
What's the other side of that argument of why it's so difficult to deal with?
Well, one of them is bleed over, and we did a test here in the Department of Justice where, you know, the blocking would bleed over. Not all prisons, most prisons in South Carolina are rural, or there's nothing really around. Some prisons are closer. They'll give you the Baltimore City Jail example, and you know, they'll say, okay, it's right next to a sidewalk, so if there's a 911 call. I was on the phone with our head of security who was out of state. Sherry Lyden was the Judge Lyden, and I was the U.S. attorney at the time. And I stopped before I walked in because we have this system that helps us identify where some of the phones are. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't have the staff to go in and actually get the phones safely in some of our institutions. And we put a little microchip in there and changed it. You can't buy this system. No one will sell it to you because it's against the law. The feds can do it. Federal prisons can do it. That's what the law says, but states cannot. So we got permission. I was deputized as a special marshal for a period of time. Got the big hat. So anyways, I literally was on the phone with him and I said, I'm going in, and I started talking to him, and I took one step into the dorm and my phone completely shut off. It literally worked one step away. So I think that's a red herring. I think one of the issues that cell phone companies have, and they haven't told me this, we're probably okay with prisons, but what's next? Cars, movie theaters, churches, schools, what's next? And that's a big revenue source for them. So I think that's their concern. It is a public safety, it truly is a public safety matter. I want them to communicate. I wouldn't have done the tablet program that gives them, more ability to talk to their family members, but I just think it's just so dangerous. So, yes, ma'am.
Thank you for coming today. I want to commend your employees. I don't know if you've put anything in place or not, but one of my best friends is your administrative
She told me,
assistant.
yes.
And they take their job seriously. And
She does.
I've not seen her since March because she doesn't want to take a chance on bringing anything outside or taking anything inside. So I want to commend you and your employees for doing that.
Yeah, Dane is, I call Dane Radar O'Reilly, and anybody remembers MASH remembers that, because I'll be like, hey, I need this, and it will show up on my desk. So Dane does a great job. So, no questions, Andy? It's a free shot. Thank you.
Bryan, we appreciate you being here today. We appreciate all that you're doing to keep us safe and the inmates safe too. Here's a little thank you from the Rotary Club.
Thank you very much.
President-elect Catherine Davis could not be here today. She wanted me to let you all know that Robert Bo Cofield, he's the CEO of Palmetto Prisma Richland. So he'll be here and he'll be our speaker next week. That'll be pretty interesting. And like I mentioned earlier, we are now going to recite the four-way test before we adjourn. So let's all rise and give the four-way test together. I'll use the microphone and lead us.